Hey everybody, this is Joel, the accidental retiree, here on YouTube in Bucerías, Mexico. Bienvenidos a nuestro canal. Bienvenidos to a very important episode. Let's call it an emergency episode. I don't want to try to make too much about this, but it is super, super important. I had the frickin' scare of my life the other day. It's around 8:30 in the morning, and Nadia sends me a message. Log into your Intercam account, because when I log in, I'm just getting a blank page, like there's nothing there. So I said, okay, well, maybe there's just something wrong with your token or your login password. So, I go into Intercam and I log in, and I was able to log in, but basically none of my accounts were there. So I'm like, well, maybe that's just like a glitch with the system. So I said, Nadia, you gotta call our bank manager and let's see what's happening there. So she calls the bank manager, and basically the bank manager says there's nothing she can do. This is because of the US investigation on Intercam and all the problems they're having with these suggestions of money laundering. So because we actually had a US dollar account, all of our online access got taken away. So literally, guys, that scared the complete shit out of me. So, your mind immediately goes to this dark place, oh my God, is there a bank run happening here? Are my funds frozen? I'm not talking a few hundred pesos, we're talking several million pesos in our operating account for our business, which, we need to operate. I need to have access to make payroll, pay my trades, everything else that I have going on. So I was quite panicked. So I had her call the manager back and said, ask the manager if she can do a wire for us to our Santander bank. And then the manager told her, no, she was not able to do a wire for us. We had to call the call center. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So again, there goes my mind in this deep, dark place. Why can't my manager access my money? I got to call the specialist at the call center. We finally get on the phone. Nadia comes over. I'm like, come over to my house. Let's call together. So we get the person from Intercam on the phone and basically asked all the questions. They explained why this was happening, and the reason why it happened was because we had a US dollar account and a peso account. So anyone who had both those types of accounts, like a US dollar account specifically, you lost all your online access, but it was only going to be temporary. But in the interim, we needed to make payments. We were like, what can we do? So he said he was able to help us with the wire, but we should go back to the bank and explain to them that they can in fact do that, and they could get head office approval to make that transfer. So Nadia and I went to Intercam Bank, and after about an hour of sitting there, doing up all the paperwork, getting the approvals, because we were transferring quite a high amount, and we transferred all the money to Santander. Was that an overreaction? I'm not sure. Am I happy that I have access to my money? Yes, because let's call a spade a spade. The world is a bit of a precarious place right now. There are going to be bank failures. There's going to be bank failures in the U.S. I mean, there already has been several bank failures. If you kind of go back in time, it wasn't too long ago that you had those tech banks folding in Silicon Valley, and they just since swept it under the rug, right? It's just a matter of time before we see bank failures in the US again, bank failures in Canada, and of course, we're going to see bank failures in Mexico. And the reason why I think Intercam is such an easy target, and CI Banco, they're part of this. And there's one other bank, but it doesn't ring a bell for me, so I'm not going to talk about that. Just CI Banco and Intercam are the two that I've done business with in the past. But they're easy targets, okay? They are not one of those too big to fail. Think about JP Morgan. If those guys got in trouble in the United States, they're too big to fail. We've seen that before, right? In the great financial crisis, eventually there was someone out there that won the game because they were too big to fail. So you throw some of those other guys under the bus, they fail, and the bigger guys just get bigger. To think that that's not going to happen, or that can't happen in Mexico, I think we would have to give our head a little bit of a shake. That likely can happen, that likely will happen in Mexico. And it's probably going to continue to happen in the United States. And we're going to see bank failures in Canada. It's just a matter of time. So what's going on with Intercam and CI Banco? They are being investigated for being part of money laundering. So now we have kind of some panic that is set into the market. You're hearing stories of people I don't know if it's like a full-on bank run, but people are withdrawing their money from Intercam, like we did the other day. I've heard stories and seen Facebook posts of people going to Intercam to withdraw cash and the bank having no cash on hand. Anytime that happens, that's a little bit scary. Now, all those stories ended with, well, we're getting a delivery of cash this afternoon so you can return. But now I'm also hearing restrictions on the amount of cash you can withdraw in a day. A lot of Canadians and Americans who aren't residents here in Mexico use Intercam as their bank because they don't need to be a resident to have a bank account there. So that's very popular. So that is now one of the challenges, because a lot of us also use companies like Wise to move our money from the States or Canada into our Mexican bank account. So now Wise has stopped all south of the border transactions. So you can no longer move money from Wise to an Intercam or CI Banco account. So you can move it to a Santander account or another Mexican bank account, but you just can't move it to Intercam. So if you are a resident of Mexico and you're looking for an alternative, there are a couple things that you can do. You can sign up for the Dollar app, which will get you not only a US dollar account, but a Mexican peso account. I have done a video on this before. And also you can sign up for a cryptocurrency account where you can start moving money into a Mexican bank account that is then tied to a crypto exchange, and that is with the company Bitso. And I'm gonna put a link in the description where you can sign up with that. So Bitso allows you to trade your crypto here in Mexico, and then you can move it to a cold wallet as well, so you don't have to like keep it entirely on the exchange. So you kind of have those two options. So eventually we were okay, but I'm still a little bit nervous. So for the time being, we've moved our money to Santander because to me, it's one of those too big to fail kind of banks. So we're okay for now. And what we did is we moved our money into Santander because I believe it's one of those too big to fail kind of banks. So for now, for the time being, that is a good place for us to park our operating money. Why is this all happening? What does this have to do? Does this really have anything to do with money laundering? Now, again, let's call a spade, all right? I use this name, JP Morgan, okay? JP Morgan is probably the biggest investment bank in the United States, and I'm assuming in the world. And if you think that there's not a bunch of laundry happening through JP Morgan, again, give your head a shake. And it probably, what happens through Intercam or CI Banco probably pales in comparison to what is actually going on with the banksters that run our financial system. But what else does this have to do with? Well, we're in the middle of a trade war, supposedly, right? Tariffs. We have all the nearshoring tensions that are happening right now in Mexico with all these various companies that invested billions of dollars into Mexico to ramp up their nearshoring for access to the United States. There's all these tensions happening. Like we're in this economic battle between various countries to basically, everyone is trying to find their place in this new economic reality. So really what it comes down to is just continuing pressure from the US to pressure Mexico and the Mexican government and the trade negotiations. It's a salvo across the bow. You know, it's just one of those shots, right? So they shot a salvo across the bow. Is it going to go somewhere? Maybe not, because maybe this is just all part of the negotiations. The negotiations will happen. The investigation into Intercam Banco or CI Banco will go away, or, which could be probable, they look for, a sacrificial lamb, right? So, CI Banco and Intercam gets thrown upon the sacrificial altar, so to speak, and gets taken down as a lesson to others not to launder money, even though the big guys are still laundering money. They just got to throw the little guy under the bus. So yeah, could small banks fail in Mexico? Absolutely. Will they fail? They're going to. Someone's going to fail. If not now, in the immediate future, sometime in the future, there's going to be a bank failure. So what happens if your bank fails? I've got a lot of questions. Is there deposit insurance in Mexico? And there is deposit insurance in Mexico. It works very similar to the way it would in Canada or the United States. All right, so let's get into the details of Mexican deposit insurance. And I've got it up on my screen here, so I'm actually going to read it a little bit more verbatim, just so I don't make any mistakes. But it's all, well, first and foremost, the Mexican Deposit Insurance is governed by the Instituto para la Protección al Ahorro Bancario, or known as IPAB, IPAB. And what does IPAB cover? It covers savings accounts, checking accounts, payroll accounts, and certificates of deposit. So think of, you buy a certificate of deposit that expires in a year at a certain interest rate. It covers those. What it doesn't cover is investment funds. So, the same in Canada and the United States. Foreign currency accounts. So if you have a US dollar account here in Mexico, guess what? It's not covered by deposit insurance. Also doesn't cover stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. So how much is protected by IPAB? Well, it's all based on what's called a UDI, and a UDI stands for Unidad de Inversión, so an investment unit. And it's a special unit of value. It was created by the Mexican government in 1995, and it was primarily there to protect against inflation. So you could think about it as like a peso that doesn't, like, it never gets devalued. So as inflation goes up, the UDI is protected by inflation. All right, so how much is covered, Joel? Well, IPAB protects 400,000 UDIs. So what you do is you take the 400,000 times the Unidad de Inversión, the investment unit, which is 7.96 right now. That gets you 3.18 million pesos. So roughly around 150,000 US dollars is what you're protected with. So if a bank fails and you have 10 million pesos in the bank, 7 million pesos gets wiped out, okay? And you're insured for the 3.18 million pesos as of today. All right, so what are the things you can do if you have more than 3 million pesos in the bank? Well, number one, you and your spouse can each open a bank account. If you have kids, you can open them a bank account, and you make sure each of your bank accounts is well under that limit. So if it's 3.18, keep it at 3 million pesos or less. You can open more bank accounts in other banks, like we did Santander, Scotiabank. I mean, there's a ton of other banking options here in Mexico. So you just spread the money around. What are some of the other things you can do is make sure to take screenshots, okay, regularly, or download your actual paper invoices. Because what if one day something just gets kind of wiped out and you have no records of your banking transactions and how much money you actually had in the bank? Let's think worst case scenario, a bank got hacked by some nefarious government entity and everything got wiped out. Guess what? You're going to be stuck years and years of them trying to figure out the paper trail. So making sure you still have paper statements, or at least a photo of your statement backed up on the cloud, but also have a hard copy, on a little drive is probably still a good idea. At the end of the day, I'm not panicking because I think this is a global issue right now. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you are subject to being involved in a bank failure. There's going to be failures all across the globe. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Up to all of us to educate ourselves, understand what the deposit insurance is going to be, and stay protected. And also understand that, if a bank goes down, I don't know how long it would take to recover your money here in Mexico, but I'm going to guess at least a year. So maybe have $1 million in 3 or 4 different banks, so that in the event one bank goes under, even though you could have been potentially insured for the whole amount, you're not going to be waiting however long it's going to take to make that actual claim minimum. So in the end of the day, the Mexican banking system, pretty stable. It's been stable for many years. So, should you be panicking? Hell no, I don't think so. I'd be more panicked having my money in Canada right now in Canadian dollars, to be honest. I feel a lot better having my money sitting in US dollars and US bank accounts, or in treasuries, and also in pesos. And I think, and this, just a little teaser, I got another video coming out on where I think the Mexican peso is going to top out here and where the US dollar is going to bottom against the Mexican peso. I've already posted that on my Patreon, so you can go look at that right now. But I'm a big buyer of US dollars at 18.50. Okay, so when the peso hits 18.50 to the US dollar, I am probably going to move around 75% of my pesos into US dollars. That is not to say that the peso can't get stronger, but I think and believe, based on my analysis, and if you go onto my Patreon and download the PDF, I believe that thesis is pretty lock solid. It's one of those 80, 20, 80% is going to happen, 20% it won't. Final message, yeah, this isn't the end of the banking system in Mexico. Again, don't panic, but I think be realistic. I think there are going to be some banks thrown under the bus or thrown on the sacrificial altar. Could that be CI Banco, Intercam? You know, I think the probability is pretty high there. But just keep your eye on actually what's happening. Make sure you diversify yourself out of those banks. I want you to comment below. Have you had any problem with Mexican banks? Have you had any problem with Canadian or American banks? Have you ever been part of a bank failure? Comment below and let us know what you think and what your experience has been. Again, make sure you go to my Patreon right now, and for the full month of July, some people get confused. So you go to the Patreon, click this link right now, guys, and you can join for free. So there's 3 levels that are paid levels, but right now you can just choose the free level. Okay, so there's no commitment required. Not in 7 days or 10 days, you can stay a free member forever. Just take the free membership, because I have a lot of exclusive content going on there that I'm not publishing on YouTube. And I'm also going to be starting to do a lot more content where I can speak a little bit more in my mind and not have to worry about going outside of my YouTube lane. So you don't even have to subscribe to any of the paid versions. Just do the free version for now until the end of July, and then after that you can decide if you want to tier up. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. And oh, do me one favor. Before you leave, copy the link to this video, and I want you to share it with 3 friends. Can you do that for me? Muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Nos vemos y adiós desde Bucerías, México. ¡Ay, ay, ay!